for the sake, as he sees it, of the ones he preaches to. The preacher is apt to preach the gospel with a high magic taken out, the deep mystery, the fairy tale reduced to a manageable size. Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and it will be opened to you. Truly, I say to you, if you have faith as a grain of mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, remove hence to yonder place, and it will be moved, and nothing will be impossible to you. Come, O blessed of my Father, and inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. He who believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. The wild and joyful promise of the gospel is reduced by preachers, more often than not, to promises more easily kept. The peace that passeth all understanding is reduced to peace that anybody can understand. The faith that can move mountains and raise the dead becomes faith that can help make life bearable until death ends it. Eternal life becomes a metaphor for the way the good a man does lives after him. Blessed is he who takes no offense at me, Jesus says, and the preacher is apt to seek to remove the offense by removing from the gospel all that he believes we find offensive. You cannot blame him, because up to a point, of course, he's right. With part of ourselves, we are offended, as he thinks we are, by what is too much for us to believe, for what is too much for us to believe. We weren't born yesterday. We're from Missouri, all of us. But we're also from somewhere else. We are from Oz, from Looking Glass Land, from Narnia, and from Middle-earth. If with part of ourselves we are men and women of the world and share the sad unbeliefs of the world, with a deeper part still, the part where our best dreams come from, it's as if we were indeed born yesterday or almost yesterday, because we're also, all of us, children still, very deep inside. No matter how forgotten and neglected, there is a child in all of us who is not just willing to believe in the possibility that maybe fairy tales are true after all, but who is to some degree in touch with that truth. You pull the shade up on the snow falling, white on white, and the child comes to life for a moment at the sight of the snow. There's a fragrance in the air, a certain passage of a song, an old photograph falling out from the pages of a book, the sound of somebody's voice in the hall that makes your heart leap and fills your eyes with tears. Who can say when or how it will be that something Easters up out of the dimness to remind us of a time before we were born and after we will die? The child in us lives in a world where nothing is too familiar or unpromising to open up into the world where a path unwinds before our feet into a deep wood, where a yellow brick road stretches on to an unimaginable city. And when that happens, neither the world we live in nor the world that lives in us can ever entirely be home again, any more than it was home for Dorothy in the end either, because in the Oz books that follow the wizard, she keeps coming back again and again to Oz, because Oz, not Kansas, is where her heart is. And the wizard turns out to be not a humbug, but the greatest of all wizards, after all. So let the preacher remember this, and preach to us not just as men and women of the world, but as children, too, who are often much more simple-hearted than he supposes, and much hungrier than he supposes, for and ready to believe in, and already in contact with, more magic and mystery than most of the time even we are entirely aware of ourselves. Unless you turn and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven, Jesus says. And he's not just being sentimental as he says it. Let the preacher stretch our imagination and and strain our credulity and make our jaws drop, because the sad joke of it is that if he does not, then of all people, he is almost the only one left who does not. Scientists speak of intelligent life among the stars, of how at the speed of light there is no time, no consciousness, as consciousness is more than just an epiphenomenon of the physical brain. Doctors speak seriously about life after death, and not just the mystics anymore, but the housewife, the stockbroker, the high school seniors speak about an inner world where reality becomes transparent to a reality realer still. The joke of it is that often it is the preacher who, as steward of the wildest mystery of them all, is the one who hangs back, prudent, cautious, hopelessly mature and wise to the last, when no less than St. Paul tells him to be a fool for Christ's sake, no less than Christ tells him to be a child for his own sake and for the kingdom's sake. Let the preacher tell the truth. Let him make audible the silence of the news of the world with the sound turned off, so that in that silence we can hear the tragic truth of the gospel, which is that the world where God is absent is a dark and echoing emptiness. And the comic truth of the gospel, which is that it is into the depths of his absence that God makes himself present in such unlikely ways and to such unlikely people, that old Sarah and Abraham, and maybe when the time comes, even Pilate and Job and Lear and Henry Ward Beecher and you and I laugh till the tears run down our cheeks. And finally, let him preach this overwhelming of tragedy by comedy, of darkness by light, of the ordinary by the extraordinary, as the tale that is too good not to be true, because to dismiss it as untrue is to dismiss along with it that catch of the breath, that beat and lifting of the heart, near to or even accompanied by tears, which I believe is the deepest intuition of truth that we have. Thank you.